Hello there. Good afternoon, good evening, or good night, whatever time it might happen to be where you're at right now. So we're gonna have a bit of a break from our games for a bit. We've got some people on holiday. We have a player who's had a death in the family, sadly. So we are going to be taking a bit of time between now and our next game. So in between that, I've got a few little treats for you. So what I'm going to do is give you some bonus chapters of the story. So let's say today we're going to have a quick run through of the first time that Alexander met Allura. If you've watched the most recent session, you'll know that these two characters have recently come up in the story, and it's come out that they did know each other. Obviously, for my own players, the information following is a tiny bit of a spoiler. You know that these characters met, but you wouldn't have the background of how they met. But I don't think it's anything that's going to be a problem if my players watch this as well. So enjoy, comment below, let me know what you're looking for. Apologies as well for the audio on the last session uploads. I know that my initial introduction ended up being muted. Technical problems, sorry for that. But we'll go ahead and jump into this one today. Enjoy, and we'll get back to playing pretty soon. Between now and then, though, I'll have a couple more bonus chapters for you. Have fun. The city of Titan bustles in the warm glow of twilight, the streets alive with the hum of commerce and the chatter of its citizens. But not all corners of Titan are bathed in its vibrant light. In the darker alleys, away from the watchful eyes of the city guards, danger festers. In one such alley, a young ranger named Allura navigates the labyrinthine back streets, her sharp green eyes scanning the dimly lit surroundings. She moves with the agility of someone trained to stalk prey in the wild, but the city is not her domain. Her leather armor creaks softly as she rounds a corner, her bow slung over her shoulder, and a quiver of arrows bouncing lightly at her back. She's on the hunt for a lead, a smuggler's hideout rumored to be operating in this part of the city. Her mentor in the Rangers' conclave sent her to investigate, but perhaps they underestimated the danger awaiting her. From the shadows, a low chuckle echoes. Allura freezes, her hand instinctively moving to the dagger at her hip. A group of 5 thugs steps out from the darkness, their faces lit by the faint glow of a flickering street lantern. Their leader, a wiry man with a patchy beard and cruel eyes, grins at her.
Well, well,
He sneers.
what's a pretty little bird like you doing in a place like this? Lost your way?
Allura doesn't flinch, though her heart races.
I'm not looking for trouble.
She says calmly, her voice steady.
Step aside, and I'll be on my way.
The leader's grin widens.
Oh, but you found trouble, sweetheart. And trouble's got a price.
The other thugs begin to close in, their weapons glinting faintly in the dim light. Allura's grip tightens on her dagger. She knows she's outnumbered, and while she's trained to handle herself, this isn't the open wilderness where she can melt into the trees. Here the walls cage her in, and the odds are stacked against her. As the first thug lunges, Allura sidesteps, slashing with her dagger in one fluid motion. The man yelps as the blade grazes his arm, but the others close in quickly. She draws an arrow, but before she can notch it, one of them grabs her quiver and yanks it off her back. Another swings a club, forcing her to roll out of the way. The fight turns desperate, the odds overwhelming. And then a voice, low and rumbling like distant thunder, cuts through the chaos.
5 against 1 hardly seems fair.
The thugs pause, turning toward the source of the voice. From the shadows at the far end of the alley, a towering figure steps into the light. Alexander Krieger, his golden scales catching the faint glow, looms like a specter of justice. His battered armor tells of a lifetime of battles, and the great sword strapped to his back gleams faintly despite its age. His amber eyes burn with quiet intensity, and his mouth curls into a grim, humorless smile.
Unless
He continues, his voice dripping with dry sarcasm.
you'd like to even the odds, I'm happy to oblige.
The leader snarls.
This isn't your fight, Dragonborn. Walk away.
Alexander's gaze hardens.
It is now.
Before the leader can respond, Alexander moves with a swiftness that belies his size. In one fluid motion, he unsheathes his great sword, the blade humming faintly with divine energy. The first thug charges him, only to be sent sprawling by a single crushing blow from the flat of the sword. Another swings a knife, but Alexander sidesteps effortlessly, grabbing the man by the wrist and slamming him into the alley wall. With a resounding thud, Olyndar watches, stunned, as the paladin-turned-warrior dispatches the thugs with ruthless efficiency. His movements are precise, economical, and devastating. Within moments, only the leader remains, his bravado replaced by sheer terror. Alexander steps forward, towering over the man.
Run!
He growls. The leader doesn't need to be told twice. He bolts, disappearing into the shadows, leaving his unconscious companions behind. The alley falls silent, save for the heavy breathing of the downed thugs and the distant murmur of the city. Alexander sheathes his greatsword and turns to Olyndar, his expression unreadable.
You all right?
He asks, his voice gruff but not unkind. Olyndar straightens, brushing dust from her armor.
I had it under control,
she says, though there's a hint of sheepishness in her tone. Alexander raises an eyebrow.
Sure you did?
She bristles at his sarcasm but doesn't argue. Instead, she studies him, noting the weariness in his eyes and the way he carries himself, as if the weight of the world rests on his shoulders.
Thank you,
she says finally, her tone sincere. He grunts in acknowledgement, already turning to leave.
Wait,
she calls after him.
Who are you?
He pauses, glancing back over his shoulder.
Just an old soldier who's seen too much.
He hesitates, then adds,
Name's Alexander.
Olyndar.
She replies, stepping forward.
I'm with the Rangers Conclave.
I figured.
He says, his gaze flicking to her bow.
You're green, though. Rookie mistake coming here alone.
I can handle myself,
she retorts, a spark of defiance in her eyes. He chuckles dryly.
Clearly.
Despite herself, Olyndar smiles. There's something about him, his gruffness, his blunt honesty, that feels oddly comforting.
Well, Alexander, if you're not doing anything important, maybe you could show me how it's done.
He snorts, shaking his head.
Kid, you don't want me as a mentor.
Why not?
Because heroes don't get happy endings.
He says, his voice heavy with bitterness.
I don't know much about happy endings, to be honest.
With that, he turns and walks away, leaving Olyndar standing in the alley. But as she watches him go, she can't shake the feeling that their paths will cross again, and that the world has more in store for the weary dragonborn than he's willing to admit.